Whoever said crime doesn't pay may not have met the people on this list. There are countless movies showing the glitz and glamour of criminal life, but we all know that real-life criminals often face grim ends, hiding and always on the run, in prison, or 6 feet under. At the height of their careers, though, the possibilities seemed endless for our mega-wealthy criminals through their different means. Embezzlement, drug cartels, Ponzi schemes, prostitution, and murder. So let's get to know them better and see how much crime did pay them. These are the top 10 richest criminals of all time. From hundreds of millions to billions of dollars, stay tuned to see who tops them all with having a fortune equal to a top 100 country. Number 10. Bernard Madoff, $820 million. Be careful with those financial advisors because considered to be one of the best, Bernard Madoff, former NASDAQ chairman, swindled thousands of investors through operating the largest Ponzi scheme in US history. He was only caught when his own sons cooperated with authorities in 2008. Shortly after, he was sentenced to 150 years in prison for extorting 66 billion US dollars from his clients dating back all the way to the mid-80s. He's also known for being the first prominent practitioner of legal kickbacks, a highly debated financial practice where victims of the Ponzi scheme are reimbursed. They're currently on their 9th distribution with a total handout so far of 11.4 billion US dollars. Number 9. Joaquin Guzman Lora, El Chapo, $1 billion. The famous El Chapo, meaning Shorty, was named for his 5'6" height. The small but terribly dangerous Mexican drug lord was once known as the most powerful drug trafficker in the world by the US Department of Treasury. The notorious drug kingpin headed the Sinaloa cartel, known for bringing a quarter of the illegal drugs in the US from Mexico. He also escaped prison twice and pled not guilty to a 17-count charge of heading a criminal enterprise and conspiring to murder. Number 8. Al Capone, $1.3 billion US dollars. You wouldn't want to come across this guy in a dark alley at night. Public Enemy No. 1 and Scarface are some of the names of this infamous gangster. Al Capone, coming from $1 billion fortune from bootlegging, prostitution, and gambling during the time of Prohibition. He was also reportedly responsible for the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1929, killing 7 members and associates of Chicago's North Side Gang, and attempted murder of Bugs Moran, head of the gang. While he escaped the count of racketeering, he served 6.5 years for income tax evasion. He was released and later died in Miami in 1947 due to syphilis. Number 7. Alan Stanford, about $2 billion US dollars. This guy sure didn't put all of his eggs in one basket because in 2012, the American billionaire and owner of Stanford Financial Services, Alan Stanford, was found guilty of a $7 billion Ponzi scheme, money laundering, and obstruction of justice, and was sentenced to 110 years in prison. He is currently serving his time at the United States Penitentiary, Coleman in Florida. What's more disturbing in his stand in the matter, he said to BBC in 2016, "I didn't do anything wrong. Will I apologize? No. Mark my words, I'm going to walk out the doors of this place a free man." I would steer clear of this guy's financial advice if I were you. Number 6. Leona Helmsley, $2 billion. I can definitely relate to hating taxes, but the queen of mean, Leona Helmsley, took it to a whole new level when she called taxes something only the little people pay. She later was sentenced to 16 years in prison for tax offenses, a sentence that, interestingly enough, began on tax day, April 15th. At the height of her criminal career, Leona acquired well-known New York City real estate, including the Empire State Building and Flatiron Building. She used the money from this real estate empire to stock her Connecticut summer home with extravagant amenities, like a $1 million marble dance floor and a $45,000 silver clock. That's worth more than some of us make in a year. Since criminals aren't the best bookkeepers, their reported fortunes may vary wildly across sources. One thing for sure though, that if anything, the numbers are below the actual values. I can only imagine what our number one's real fortune is, given that the reports already show a fortune that equals a top 100 country. Stay tuned. Number 5. Carlos Enrique Lara Rivas, $2.7 billion. Titan of the cocaine industry, Carlos Rivas co-founded the Medellin cartel that dealt with stolen cars, marijuana, and eventually cocaine. This infamous drug lord had his own personal army and kingdom of gunmen, racing boats, airplanes, a ranch with a racetrack, and even his own small neo-fascist party. With power comes envy, of course, with Rivas reportedly being captured with the help of his own cartel and co-founder. He received a sentence of life imprisonment without parole plus 135 years, which was reduced to 55 years total in 1992. Until this day, he remains imprisoned in the US. Number 4. Kun Sa, $5 billion. Representing Asians in this list is the Burmese warlord Kun Sa, the publicity-loving Golden Triangle drug lord, who was in charge of opium trafficking and 70% of the heroin business in the Golden Triangle of Laos, Myanmar, and Thailand from 1974 to 1994. His operation was so widespread that most of the heroin that reached the US from the Golden Triangle came from his opium fields. The self-dubbed King of the Golden Triangle controlled the region with the power of guns and opium, and built himself an army and large-scale heroin laboratories. He later surrendered to the Burmese authorities in 1996 upon the condition that he receive government protection. He died of unknown causes in 2007, aged 73. Number 3. Victor Bout, around $6 billion. Another name to fear is the Merchant of Death. Victor Bout was the world's biggest arms dealer, selling arms in all four corners of the world after the fall of the Berlin Wall. A former officer of Soviet Air Forces, Bout was convicted of conspiracy to kill US officials, aiding the terrorist organization FARC, wire fraud, and money laundering. He was sentenced to 25 years minimum in 2012, and in true business savviness, the Merchant of Death continues to contest his conviction, even daring then-President-elect Donald Trump in 2016 to pardon him if he took office. He is still officially imprisoned to this day. Number 2. Amado Carrillo Fuentes, $25 billion. The second richest drug lord, El Señor de los Cielos, the Lord of the Skies, Amado Carrillo Fuentes trafficked tons of drugs from Colombia and Mexico to the US in the 90s. With his infamous business partner, whom I'll get to in a bit, Fuentes built a multi-billion-dollar drug empire. Avoiding the authorities all his life, he met his end from a complication in an alleged 8-hour plastic surgery to radically alter his appearance. The plastic surgeons were not forgiven, for they were found dead soon after, encased in concrete, inside steel drums, and reportedly showed signs of torture. Number 1. Pablo Emilio Escobar, $30 billion. Here, I reach the number 1 big bad in our list, the king of cocaine himself, Pablo Emilio Escobar. Not to exaggerate, in the 80s, Escobar, the head of the Medellin cartel and partner of Amado Fuentes, was the 7th richest man in the world. His fortune at the age of 35 reached nearly $30 billion US, equal to the GDP of present-day Latvia, number 99 in world rankings. All this from smuggling an estimated 80% of US cocaine supply in the 1980s. Recognized by Forbes in 1989 as one of the world's wealthiest billionaires, Escobar was later captured and placed in his own-built luxury prison at La Catedral. He escaped but died 60 months after in a shootout with the DEA after evading a test for months. 30 billion US dollars. Just $1 billion in $100 bills would stack higher than the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building at 1 kilometer. What more with $30 billion? The skies are the limit. What would you do with $30 billion? Would you quit a life of crime and spend it all? Tell me in the comments down below. I'll respond to all comments in the first hour. If you want to learn more about Pablo Escobar, you should watch my other video, 10 Things You Didn't Know About Pablo Escobar. Watch to find out the most surprising fact about his life and radically successful criminal career. Peace.